Hello and welcome to this week's edition of News in Depth. Today on the program, we investigate payment systems on public buses. Our findings indicate that a number of customers could be exploited of some ngwees on public transport in Lusaka. To take you through this investigative report, I'm your host, Masauso Mukwayaya. Stay tuned. These are the typical sounds of a local bus station in Zambia's capital city, Lusaka. The stations are thronged by cowboys who energetically scream out boarding and bus route choruses to scout for passengers. These cowboys at Kulima Tower, one of the largest bus stations in Lusaka, are part of the larger transport system in the country. And in most cases, they are the first contact for a passenger. Since the collapse of the state-run United Bus Company Zambia, UBZ, in 1994, the transport sector has witnessed a number of regulatory and economic transformations. Prominent among them is the liberalization of the sector. At the moment, the entire public service road transport sector in Zambia is in private hands.
Currently, we have a system that's liberalized. People enter the sector whenever they have some money. They can buy a bus, a Marco Polo bus or a small bus, and they put it on the road. The regulations have been very relaxed. That's a space where we've been, especially since the Second Republic. As we move forward, as the PF government of His Excellency, the President, Mr. Edgar Chabalungu, we've been thinking along the lines of obviously bringing a bit more regulation in the space to make sure that there's a bit of orderliness in how the sector can be facilitated to grow. We've been thinking about defining the type of equipment that can be operated on the roads to make sure that we bring decency and some integrity and distance to the space.
This documentary stems from an investigation seeking to understand financial leakages and transactional lapses that exist between passengers and the bus crew on local public buses.
But so
ona manga why machitika so? Why machitika so?
Since I'm sure me.
But first, to establish a concrete understanding of the sector, we engaged Ishmael Kankara, proprietor of Capital Bus Services, the owners of the largest fleet of buses in Lusaka. Mr. Kankara's company owns about 250 buses and has been in the business of moving people to and from different parts of the city for more than 20 years. Approximately 3,000 buses operate in Lusaka.
Let's have a good transport network to provide for the people of Lusaka. I'm talking of Lusaka because I'm only in Lusaka. We need to wake up, because Lusaka is growing at a very, very fast rate. Look around you. We have no space, we have no land left in Lusaka. We are going out now, Chiwombo. We have no space left. Our population is bursting, and we need services, and we need quality services, and safe services. So the passenger transport system is going to help us a lot in development of this country. And if we are going to neglect it the way we are being neglected at the moment, I'll be very honest with you, we are being neglected because whenever there are prime decisions to be made, we are not involved. Like the speed cameras, the seat belts. We need to be consulted. We need to come up with ideas.
For the Taxis and Bus Drivers Association of Zambia, the biggest challenge the sector is faced with is failure by authorities to guarantee a smooth passage for buses. In most cases, especially in Lusaka, buses get stuck in congestion.
It's everyone's desire when they leave home that they should be able to move to their destination in the shortest possible time. And we have been faced with that challenge of finding an avenue in which anyone who's traveling, or worse, if they are on a public transport, to be able to get to their destination in the time that they would desire to do so. So we feel the current status of our transport sector poses a lot of challenges, not only for our minibus drivers, but equally for the commuters that use our services.
Of the 3,000 registered local public service buses, about 1,500 move around the city on a daily basis. But due to traffic, a bus makes an average of 3 round trips from town to a particular area in the city and vice versa. These vehicles can at most accommodate up to 16 passengers. If 1,500 buses make 3 round trips on average in a day, it means that more than 72,000 people move on public buses in Lusaka every day. Mawano Kambeu is an ICT entrepreneur who was awarded by the prestigious Harvard University for designing a bus ticketing system. He says the local transport sector is highly fragmented, a thing he says is affecting efficiency in the provision of the service.
The local public transport sector, and I think this is just not a Zambia situation alone, I think it's an Africa-wide situation alone. It's very difficult to get the logistics aspect of that sector to the efficiency we have in the West. And a lot of that, if you think about it, comes from the fact that a lot of public transportation is privately owned. And it's not privately owned by a conglomerate, for example. It's owned by individuals. So that means what you have is you have a fragmented market. That makes running the running the transport sector very difficult. And if you think about it, the public sector in other countries is run as a need. That means that it's on schedule, it follows a certain pattern so that people can plan accordingly. However, here we run the public sector based on profit. As of September 2018, the official fare chart showed that the lowest bus fare in Lusaka was 6 kwacha 80 ngwee on routes such as Town Center to Misisi and John Lane compounds. The highest fare in the city was the Town Kabanana route, which was pegged at 8 kwacha 90 ngwee. Most bus fares in the city have a coincidental feature where fares are not set in a block figure like the aforementioned. Our interactions with bus drivers, conductors, and passengers have revealed that most commuters who board buses are rarely given correct change. Out of the about 40 routes serviced by buses, only about 7 routes, such as the town to hospital, Matero, Chaisa, and garden compounds, have fares in a block figure. And the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RTSA, is aware of this.
We will soon be calling for a stakeholder engagement to find ways on how we can harmonize the operations so that there is no loss on the part of the operator, and equally there is no loss on the part of the traveling public. And one issue, of course, which you raised are the issues on how the fees are tabulated. To address such kinds of issues, we can introduce prepaid systems through the use of technological modes of payment.
Clement Kafula has been a bus driver for about 12 years. He says this issue is widespread and happens almost every day. He claims bus crews struggle to give customers change due to the scarcity of smaller currency denominations such as 10 ngwees.
We don't have. Like, for example, the Bank of Zambia said, make sure that you use the 10 ngwee, the 5 ngwees. But I mean, how would you keep that and then give it to the client when he wants it? So the little ngwees, they are not in the circulation, you know. They are not in circulation. So you are giving a change, for example, 2 kwacha 80 ngwee. Where are you going to get a 30 ngwee? We are not in possession of the small denomination of the ngwees.
We queried the Bank of Zambia on the scarcity of small coin denominations like the 10 ngwee, but they did not respond to our press query. Matthew Zindilovu is a Lusaka-based passenger who has been using buses as a mode of transport for more than 5 years. He shared his experience regarding this issue, saying the ordeal is becoming a daily nightmare. He said in most cases he is forced to forgo the ngwee change.
The issue of change. So it's either you forgo the ngwee or the coin, or you negotiate with the conductor. But mostly you forgo, because conductors usually don't want to lose.
But the Taxi and Bus Drivers Association says sometimes bus crews also lose out as some passengers also pay less money.
Getting to lose any value of their money for us is not acceptable. And if they feel that the conductor was being malicious in the manner that he said he didn't have change, or was being dishonest in the manner that he didn't have change, then they have a legal right to either report this matter to our officers through the station leaderships, and also if they are so aggrieved, this is a matter they can report to the police, because that is theft by agent.
Mr. Mbewe, however, noted that the association is always sensitizing its members to round off bus fares to the nearest lowest block figure.
So what usually we do is we encourage our conductors to come to the lowest denominator, not to go higher, but to the lowest. If you say you are paying 6 kwacha 73 ngwee, we always encourage our conductors to charge 6 kwacha 50 ngwee.
Mr. Kankara is of the view that a customer should not lose out regardless of the circumstance. He feels if the bus crew cannot secure coins to give customers as change, clients on the bus should not be inconvenienced for something they are not responsible for.
It is better the customer doesn't lose. It is better you lose. You see what I mean? Like if it's 7 kwacha 80, if you've got a 15 ngwee, give the 15 ngwee. Instead of giving a 20 ngwee, because you might not have a 20 ngwee. As it is, there is heavy competition out there. The full fares are not followed anyway, especially off-peak. If you go out there, if you go out there and climb buses, kurivotondo. Ngati ni 7 kwacha, wasakamba kuti na 5 chabe, or 4 chabe. Wasachita so on the road. So the driver will stop and say, okay, 10 kwerani. So it means they are also climbing, between peak hours, they are climbing discount prices.
And Mr. Kafula says on several occasions, the situation concerning change on the bus gets confrontational.
Because others say, if you have 1,000 and I take away a coin, it won't be 1,000 again. Okay? So they would want that ngwee to be given. Whether you like it or not, you have to give it back to the client. So most often we have that altercation in the bus.
For the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RTSA, bus operators need to work at putting up systems which will not disadvantage any party.
We need to start putting in place systems that will make it easy for the traveling public and the transporters themselves to operate in a manner that has got no friction in any way. So as a regulator of the transport system in our country, we will soon be calling for a stakeholder engagement.
And the Ministry of Transport indicates that bad customer etiquette and other forms of indecency perpetrated by bus crews on public buses has caused the ministry to begin thinking of coming up with regulations.
The challenge we have with some of the unruly behavior that comes from bus drivers and bus conductors, because rarely you can even identify them. They can be drunk on duty, they can abuse passengers, and you can't really even pin them down because you don't know who they are. So we need to bring a spotlight on these people so we can understand who they are, we know who they are, they have an employee number, they belong to some type of organization that's regulated and its conduct is understood. And through that cooperative or union or association, we can actually make sure that we weed out the bad apples that give public transportation bad name.
Mawano has done a study of the local public transport industry and discovered that most players are not so much interested in issues of efficiency.
Here, we run the public sector based on profit. It's when will the bus fill up? How can I maximize profit? Which means efficiency and logistics are secondary to the profit maximizations. Some companies or some large bus operators, for example, that operate intercity, they've moved to time schedules, but they do that to try and give themselves a competitive advantage over their competitors. And I think that is what you have with the with the logistics sector, I think, in the country.
To prove some of the claims and concerns, we conducted an investigation by boarding buses from the Lusaka Central Business District to 4 different locations around the city on different days. On all the 4 occasions, interactions with passengers and the bus crews proved that about half of all passengers who board a local bus are usually overcharged by 20 to 30 ngwee, depending on the fares on a particular route. On one of the trips, we managed to convince the bus crew to allow us film a trip from the CBD to Mass Media Complex. I should hasten to note that the official bus fare from the CBD to Mass Media is 7 kwacha 30 ngwee. I produced a 50 kwacha note to pay for the TV crew's bus fare.
Mass Media too, huh?
With the bus fare being 7 kwacha 30 ngwee, the change was supposed to be 35 kwacha 40 ngwee. But the conductor gave me 35 kwacha as changed, meaning that he overcharged me by 40 ngwee. Not even the presence of the rolling camera would stop the bus conductor from exploiting me and other passengers. When queried on why I was overcharged, he simply finished me with an excuse of not having 10 ngwee coins.
Ndaba naye nikaidi tumanipase tumangwe topa mama.
Tusakira tumasakira macoin. Tumavutika monga first trip ya kusini tumavutika kusakira macoin. Ni just bantu banayambo jaira chabe. But wenango mapeza wenango amumare mbikira na conductor. Exchange of ways.
So much tabandi kabela ya Zanda bali mbikira na.
For me na chini kumpasa. But wenango understand. Almost understand.
Challenge ya tumangwe ya meni mabere how often
makamaka kusini makamaka ku first trip chifa benango sitimagona na ndiramu so monga kusini ma benango tumaronga ma 05 kutu sakire mu town kari sakire mwamenanga kuchinja ma coin niyo vuta.
6 kwacha 80 ngwee is the lowest fare of all local routes in Lusaka. To come up with estimates on how much cash is transacted on local routes in a day, we multiplied 6 kwacha 80 ngwee by 72,000, the estimated number of people who move on buses every day. Going by those calculations, 489,600 kwacha exchanges hands on local buses in Lusaka every day. But if 8 in every 16 passengers are overcharged by an average of 20 ngwee, as established by our investigation, it means that transporters make a combined average of about 7,200 kwacha every day from overcharging customers. This translates to about 216,000 kwacha in a month. In a year, this amount of money translates to 2.4 million kwacha. This money can build a 1x8 classroom block. It can also pay a 1-month salary for about 350 teachers. It is important to bear in mind that the estimates are based on the lowest bus fares. Therefore, we can only imagine the huge sums of monies lost on higher fares. The authorities are aware of the exploitation. RTSA Public Relations Manager Fred Mubanga, however, says the agency's corrective options are limited in the short term.
We need to call upon entrepreneurs, technocrats in this area and see how best we can work together as a country to find or develop systems that will work for both the operator as well as the traveling passenger.
And Mawano says ICTs can help in sorting out transaction challenges currently happening on the local public buses. He says technology can enable people to make electronic payments using mobile phones and other devices such as point-of-sale machines.
My proposal would be really moving to electronic payments. even at the minibus level. Because I think the challenge that it creates for the consumers was, one, having to move around with cash, this fighting for change, where there's no transparency around the fares. And I think really for the bus owner as well, you want proper records in terms of how you are operating. So if you could go onto a bus, pull out your e-wallet account of some sort, at the click of a button, pay for your fare. That is what you need to try and see to move that industry forward.
Off camera, our crew was not given change for a bus ride to Choston. The Choston route is 7 kwacha, 17 ngwee, but people are charged 8 kwacha. 5 other passengers I spoke to confirmed that they had been charged 8 kwacha, meaning the entire 32-seater bus could have been overcharged. The situation replicated itself on the other 2 undercover bus rides conducted from town center to Kawata and Olympia Township routes. And for the country's tax collectors, the beginning point of redress is the introduction of point-of-sale machines whose duty has been zero-rated.
For all sectors in the economy, including the transport sector, we want to encourage people to go electronic in whatever transactions they tend to take or undertake, in the sense that this just enhances the business efficiency at every moment or at every point. It also reduces the cost of transacting.
The Ministry of Transport says it is working on a robust plan to transform the transport system, which will, among other things, decongest Lusaka and introduce electronic payment systems.
Another initiative of this government around what is called BRT, Bus Rapid Transit System. If you've been to Tanzania, you actually can see this in action in terms of a market that's close to us that you can see. But outside Tanzania, you go to any developed country, you find this. And what it is really just buses having dedicated lanes. These are timed buses that leave station A to station B. The lane that they use is dedicated to them, and obviously they are timed. And with that, there's a new payment system that comes into play, because public transportation has a lot of cash that exchanges hands. And if we bring in a BRT system, we reconfigure our roads, we have dedicated lanes, we have timed buses and electronic payment system, the sanitization and the orderliness in public transportation I'm speaking to, comes into fore.
Economic and development experts say the utilization and harnessing of resources in a country largely depend on how coordinated the movement of people and goods is done. Transport provides or improves access to different locations for individuals and businesses. It facilitates for a wider range of social and economic interactions. Transparency in the sector will help push not only modernization, but bring economic development in the nation.
This is where we come to the end of this week's edition of News in Depth, where we have been investigating the lack of transparency of payment systems on public buses in Lusaka. I've been your host, Masauso Mukwayaya. Join us next week for another in-depth documentary. Pleasant viewing.